My family mocked my startup, called me the basement dreamer. When I made my first million, I said nothing. At Christmas, I gave them all gift cards, then quietly bought the house next door to my parents' foreclosure. They called me the basement dreamer. Not just behind my back, to my face, too. My brother once said it in front of the whole family during Christmas dinner, and everyone laughed. My dad even added, "Gotta admire the persistence, even if it's delusional." But the truth? I never laughed. I just listened and kept building. My name's Adam. I'm 29. And yeah, for 4 years, I lived in my parents' basement while working on a startup idea they didn't understand. They thought I was wasting my life. Spoiler alert, they were very, very wrong. But let's rewind to when I was still their personal punchline. So yeah, the basement jokes? Not exaggerated. After graduating with a business degree and 0 job offers I actually cared about, I moved back in with my parents and started freelancing online to scrape by. But while freelancing paid the bills, it wasn't my main focus. I had this idea, a digital tool for small creators to manage their subscriptions, auto-distribute content, and avoid platform fees. Think Patreon plus Gumroad plus a decent dashboard, but built for mobile-first creators. Sounds simple now, but back then, everyone just looked at me like I'd lost it. My family hated it. Not because of the idea itself. They didn't even bother to ask what it was. They just hated that I wasn't doing real work. My mom would say stuff like, "You know your cousin is buying her second car this year?" My dad would walk past the basement stairs and go, "Still typing away down there? Any $1 million ideas today?" My older brother Josh? Oh man, he lived to humiliate me. Josh worked in finance. Big firm. Suits, cufflinks, LinkedIn updates every 2 weeks. He'd show up for dinner with stories about bonuses and investment accounts, and then look at me and say, "Still dreaming down there?" He started calling me the basement dreamer one night when I brought a prototype upstairs to show Dad. My brother didn't even let me finish before saying, "Look, it's Adam's next great invention. Should we alert the media?" That line, it made it into the family group chat. As a meme. I wish I was joking. Josh was the golden child. He always had been. Straight A's, varsity sports, good with people, married by 25. He and his wife had a condo paid for partially by my parents as a wedding gift. I, meanwhile, got told to chip in for utilities even though I never left the basement and barely used hot water. There's a kind of tiredness that builds up when the people closest to you stop seeing your worth. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't mooching. I was working 16-hour days, building back-end code from scratch, learning design, pitching quietly to small creators. I even had 2 clients using early builds of the tool by that point. No one cared. Every family dinner was a loop. How's the dream? Still playing computer guy? You know your uncle's hiring. It's warehouse work, but it's a paycheck. We just worry about you. No one ever asked what I was building. They just assumed it was nothing. That I was nothing. Then one night, something snapped. Josh was showing off pictures of his new office chair. Not the office, the chair. My mom asked him to bring it over for everyone to try. They passed it around like a trophy. When it got to me, Josh said, "Don't break it, dreamer. That's real leather. Your startup can't afford that yet." The worst part? Everyone laughed. And I just sat there, holding that overpriced office chair, thinking, you know what? I'm done trying to prove anything to you people. That night, I went back to the basement and I made a promise to myself. No more explaining. No more pitching ideas to people who were never listening. From now on, I'd let the results speak. Quietly, I stopped showing prototypes. Stopped mentioning updates. Stopped even responding when they made jokes. I just worked. And 2 weeks later, a DM from a mid-sized creator changed everything. 2 months after that night with the leather chair and the laughter, my phone buzzed around 11:30 p.m. It was my mom. That was weird. She never called late. At first, I thought something happened to Dad. He'd been getting migraines lately and brushing them off like it was just stress. But when I picked up, she sounded more embarrassed than panicked. "Adam," she said, her voice low and tight. "We need to talk about something, and please, don't mention this to your brother." That sentence alone set off alarm bells. She went on to explain, slowly, like she was chewing each word before it came out, that they were falling behind on the mortgage. Apparently, the bank had already sent 2 notices, and my dad had been hiding it from her until the second one came certified. They were 3 months behind. Josh's promotion that he'd bragged about? A lie. He'd taken a pay cut to keep his job and borrowed money from our parents to cover temporary expenses. That was 5 months ago, and now, they were officially in pre-foreclosure. I sat there on the edge of my bed, still in that same basement they all joked about, staring at the floor like it had answers. "Why are you calling me?" I asked, not even with anger, just confusion. She paused, then said, "Because you're steady. Not brilliant. Not successful. Just steady. Like a Honda Civic." She made it clear she wasn't asking for money. not directly. She just wanted me to know. But the tone said something else entirely. I could hear the hope under her words. The quiet assumption that maybe I'd offer, because that's what family does. I didn't. Not that night. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. There was something ironic about it, that the same people who'd spent years mocking me for not owning anything were now possibly losing everything. But I didn't feel smug. I felt numb. The timing was almost cruel. Because, the very next morning, I got an email. A company I'd reached out to months earlier had finally replied. They wanted a meeting. They were interested in licensing my backend to integrate into their platform. They weren't massive, but big enough. Big enough to matter. That meeting led to another. That second meeting led to a pilot deal. And 3 weeks later, I signed my first six-figure contract. $125,000 for a licensing deal, with a revenue share option if their rollout went well. I remember opening the DocuSign confirmation in the same chair my dad once told me to get out of and do something real. I stared at it, then laughed, quietly to myself. No announcement. No Instagram flex. No champagne. I just walked upstairs, heated up leftovers, and went back down. Like nothing had happened. A week later, I got a call from a real estate agent I'd been working with behind the scenes. Hey, he said, you remember that listing you flagged near your folks' place? I told him I did. Well, he said, funny thing. The bank just listed your parents' neighbor's house. Price dropped. They're looking to close fast. I knew the house. I played in that backyard as a kid. Knew every creaky stair, every tree branch that hung low enough to swing from. And it was right next to my parents' place. I didn't hesitate. I wired the deposit that same day. I didn't tell anyone. Not even the realtor knew it was my parents I'd be living beside. In fact, no one knew I had money. To them, I was still the guy in the basement playing pretend. I could have rubbed it in. I could have gone upstairs, thrown a check on the table, and said, now what? But I didn't. Because the longer I kept quiet, the sweeter it got. And I had something even better planned. Christmas was coming, and I had the perfect gift in mind. I didn't bring anything flashy to Christmas dinner. No watch, no car, no dramatic entrance. Just a box of grocery store gift envelopes, all neatly labeled with their names. Same as every year, the house smelled like pine-scented candles and overcooked ham. Josh was already there when I arrived, standing by the fireplace in a button-down 2 sizes too tight, holding court like he always did. His wife Rachel was next to him, pretending to care while scrolling through her phone. When I walked in, no one looked up. No, hey, Adam. No, how's the dream? This time either. Just silence. Honestly, I think they were surprised I even showed up. I stayed quiet through dinner. Let them talk about their lives. Josh spent 20 minutes explaining how the market's correcting itself and how his firm had strategic downsized, which apparently means he got demoted but still gets to wear a tie. My mom made a comment about tightening belts this year and how the cost of everything had gone up. My dad just kept sipping his wine and staring out the window toward the neighbor's house, the one they used to gossip about when I was a kid. The food was average. The conversation was worse. Finally, after dessert, I stood up. Hey, I said, I brought something for everyone. I reached into my coat and pulled out the envelopes. Nothing fancy, just simple white paper. No logos, no gold trim. I handed one to my mom, one to my dad, one to Josh, and one to Rachel. Josh raised an eyebrow. Is this like inspirational quotes? Or wait, lotto tickets? I smiled. Close. Gift cards. He actually snorted. Well, thanks I guess. I'll use it on something you can't afford. He opened his, peeked at the amount, and his smirk froze. $100? He said, more confused than grateful. Is this from your freelancing or your fantasy fund? Rachel muttered, at least it's not handmade. Mom opened hers and gave me the polite, smile she used to give me for bringing her gas station flowers on her birthday. I let them talk. Let them think they'd won Christmas. Let them wrap themselves in their own smug. Then I said, oh, one more thing. Everyone paused. I bought a house. Josh blinked. Wait, what? My dad looked up for the first time in 15 minutes. Yeah, I said, casually sipping my water. Closed on it last week. Josh narrowed his eyes. Where? Like, where is it? I pointed toward the window. Next door. For a moment, no one spoke. My mom was the first to react. She actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because she didn't believe me. Then she stopped laughing. Because she remembered that the neighbor's house had a bank sign out front just 2 weeks ago. My dad stared out the window again, this time with real attention. You bought that place? He asked. I nodded. Yup. Josh leaned forward like he was about to accuse me of something. With what money? I tilted my head. With real money. Rachel muttered. You didn't say anything about buying a house. I know, I said. I didn't tell anyone. They all just sat there, blinking. The room had gone completely silent, the kind of silence that thickens the air. Then my mom spoke again. Quietly this time. That house, it needs work. I shrugged. Already started. Got painters coming on the 26th, floors after New Year's. She nodded slowly. She looked tired. Older than I remembered. Josh didn't say anything else. He just sat there like someone had unplugged him. That moment, it didn't feel triumphant. It felt clean, like setting a record straight without needing to argue anymore. I didn't need their approval. I didn't want their apologies. All I wanted was for them to know they were wrong. They didn't see it coming, because they never saw me. And now I'd be the first thing they'd see every morning when they looked out their window. The knock came 3 days later. Not a doorbell. A knock. The kind you give when you're not sure you should even be there. I already knew it was her. I'd been watching from the upstairs window as she crossed the lawn carrying a casserole dish covered in foil. The same one she used to bring to church potlucks when I was a kid. She stood there for a second like she might change her mind. Then knocked again. I waited. On purpose. Let her knock a second time. Then I opened the door. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I thought I'd bring something by. It's just tuna casserole. Nothing fancy. I stepped aside. You can come in, Mom. She walked in slowly, looking around like the walls might talk. The place still smelled like fresh paint. Boxes were stacked in corners. The floors were half-sanded. It looked like a project, not a home. But to her, it looked like a ghost. She placed the dish on the kitchen counter. This used to be the Carter's place, you remember? You and Josh used to sneak over and steal their apples. I nodded. Yeah, I remember. She ran her fingers along the edge of the counter. Feels strange being in here. I didn't say anything. Just let the silence sit between us. Then she said it. The real reason she came. That house used to be ours. I turned to her. No, yours is the one next door. This one's mine. She flinched, just barely. But I saw it. She leaned against the counter like her legs didn't want to hold her up anymore. Your dad doesn't know I came. He's struggling with all this. All this? I asked. She gestured around. You. The house. Everything. There was a pause. She looked down. We didn't think it would turn out like this. You mean you didn't think I would turn out like this? I said. She looked up, her face tight. We were scared for you. Living down there, buried in that computer, you didn't talk to anyone. You shut us out. I almost laughed. You mean I stopped giving you updates to laugh at? That's not fair, she said quietly. I raised an eyebrow. No? What was fair? The years of jokes? The dinners where I was the punchline? The fact that you bailed Josh out with 30 grand, but made me pay rent to sleep on a futon downstairs. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Adam, she said after a long silence. We made mistakes. But we didn't know. About the business. About the money. I nodded. You didn't ask. Another silence. Longer this time. Finally, she said, your dad wanted to ask if maybe you could help with the house. They're raising the mortgage. We thought refinancing would work, but... I shook my head. No. She blinked. No. No. I'm not giving you money to save the house. I offered before. You said no. Because of pride. That hasn't changed. Her face went stiff. She looked away. I see. She started toward the door. Well, I won't keep you. Just wanted to bring the casserole. I followed her out. Watched her walk across the lawn back to the house next door. She paused at her porch, looked back once, then went inside. That night, I turned on the security lights I had installed earlier in the day. They were motion sensor, but angled just right so that every time someone walked through their backyard, the whole place lit up like a stage. The next morning, my dad was outside adjusting their blinds. Josh's car was gone. I sat by my window, sipping coffee. Not smug. Not angry. Just calm. For once, I didn't feel like the invisible one. I was the neighbor now. Not the basement kid. Not the afterthought. And they were going to have to live with that every single day. I wasn't eavesdropping. Not exactly. I was in my backyard finishing a phone call with my lawyer. Something about the licensing extension for the second platform we'd signed last month. Just routine stuff. The cold had started creeping in, but the air was clear and still. You could hear everything. Especially through those old wooden fences that never got replaced. That's when I heard my dad's voice. It was muffled at first, then clearer as he stepped outside with Josh. They didn't know I was back there. Look, my dad said. I know this hurts your pride, but we can't keep pretending he doesn't exist. Josh scoffed. So now he's the success story? Josh. No, seriously. For years, I carried everything. I showed up. I made you proud. He sat in a basement building, whatever. You laughed at him. Mom did too. You said he needed to grow up. There was a pause. Then my dad said something I wasn't ready for. We bet on the wrong son. The air stopped moving. He kept talking, but I didn't hear the rest right away. My chest felt hollow, like the words punched a hole through something that had already been cracked. But then I tuned back in, just in time to catch Josh's response. You never bet on him, Josh said. He just got lucky. That's all. Some stupid internet thing went viral, and now he thinks he's Jeff Bezos. I walked back inside before I could hear more. Not because it hurt. Okay, maybe a little, but mostly because I didn't need to hear any more of their excuses. That night, I got a text from my mom. Just 3 words. Please come over. I didn't answer. The next day, I got another. Your father isn't well. Just talk to him. So I went. Out of curiosity more than anything else. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd moved past that. But something told me he had more to say. He was in the living room, blanket over his lap, space heater running at his feet. My mom was in the kitchen, pretending to give us privacy, but definitely listening. He didn't look up right away. Just said, "You always were quiet." I sat down across from him. "I heard what you said yesterday," I told him. He nodded slowly. I figured. Another pause. Then, "You were never what I expected. That's not your fault. That's mine." He looked old. Older than I remembered. His shoulders didn't sit straight anymore. His hands shook a little when he shifted his cup of tea. I thought success meant suits and titles. Big offices. A job you hate, but pays the bills. He looked up at me. "I didn't understand what you were building. Still don't, honestly. But you built it anyway. Even when no one believed in you. That takes more strength than anything I've ever done." I didn't respond right away. "You want an apology?" he asked. "No," I said. "I wanted you to see me. That's all." And in that moment, I think he finally did. Not as the disappointment. Not as the dreamer. Just as me. We sat there a while. Didn't say much else. But it was enough. That night, back in my house, I walked past the window and saw my mom standing in theirs. She was watching the lights on my porch flicker on as the motion sensor picked up a passing car. She didn't wave. Just looked. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like we were family anymore. It felt like I was the neighbor. The one who made it. It was a plain envelope. No stamp. Just tucked under my front door one morning in mid-January. Pushed inside like someone couldn't bring themselves to ring the bell. I recognized the handwriting immediately. My dad's. Inside, one sentence. "You were right." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just 3 words that felt heavier than a whole page of regrets. I stood there for a while, holding the letter in one hand, coffee in the other, staring out at the snow-covered yards. Their house looked tired. Shutters sagging. Gutters still full of leaves from fall. And the lights in the living room had been off more often lately. I hadn't heard from Josh since the night I overheard them talking in the yard. Word around town was that he and Rachel were taking a break. She'd moved back with her sister. I never asked for details. I hadn't spoken to my mom since the casserole visit. Truth is, things didn't magically heal after that backyard conversation. There was no hallmark moment. No sudden closeness. They didn't start showing up to my place with cookies and hugs. We were still fractured. But I think he meant that note. And that mattered. 2 weeks later, I quietly accepted an offer from a larger platform to acquire my company outright. The contract came through at $3.4 million. Not life-changing, private jet kind of rich, but more than enough to rewrite the rest of my life. I moved out of that house in March. Not because I didn't like it. I did. But it had done its job. It made a statement. It drew a line in the dirt and let everyone know exactly who I was, without me saying a word. I bought a newer place 2 towns over. More trees, less traffic. No family close enough to peer over the fence. But before I left, I did one last thing. I went to the hardware store and bought a brand new mailbox for the house next door. Not the one I lived in. The one they did. Then I stood outside and swapped out their old, rusted one. Quietly. No note. No announcement. Just left it there, bolted on clean and straight. It was stupid, maybe. Symbolic. A way of saying, I'm still me. I still care. But from a distance now. As I tightened the last screw, I heard the front door creak open. It was my mom. She didn't say anything. Just watched. When I turned to leave, she finally said something. Soft. Hesitant. "You're not coming back, are you?" I shook my head. "No. Will we see you again?" "Maybe. Maybe not." She nodded, like that was the answer she expected. As I walked back to my car, she called after me. "You did good, Adam." I didn't turn around. Just raised a hand and kept walking. Some people think revenge has to be loud. That it has to be dramatic, explosive. But the sweetest kind is quiet. It's living well. On your own terms. Without needing applause. They used to call me the basement dreamer. Now, they don't call me anything at all. They just watch. From across the fence. And that's enough. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day. And trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.